Hello, it's 10 a.m. here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. President Yoon Suk-yeol wrapped up his Southeast Asia trip last week with deals that promise to tighten collaboration with the Philippines, Singapore, as well as ASEAN nations. He may brief the public on the outcome of his trip in just a moment. And that's why we are breaking into our regular programming to bring you live coverage of his remarks. In the 44th cabinet meeting that's about to begin soon, President Yoon could also make note of South Korean novelist Kang winning the Nobel Prize in Literature last week. For her work, which includes the novel The Vegetarian, she became the first Asian female to be awarded the prize in literature. She's also the second South Korean to secure a Nobel Prize after former President Kim Jong-un, who won the Peace Prize back in 2000. Also included in today's cabinet meeting may be North Korea's recent argument regarding South Korea's alleged drone incursion into Pyongyang. The regime has been insisting since last Friday that South Korea sent unmanned aerial vehicles carrying propaganda leaflets to its capital, a total of 3 times just this month. The regime is now threatening to cut off all inter-Korean roads and railways. While we wait for President Yoon to appear at the Yongsan presidential office, let's recap some of the highlights from his Southeast Asia trip. His week-long trip consisted of 3 stops, with the first 2 being state visits to the Philippines and Singapore. Now in Singapore, he managed to secure a supply chain partnership agreement. And for the Philippines, Seoul and Manila agreed to maintain support for each other's security issues. They are North Korea for South Korea and the South China Sea issues for the Philippines. Now, the final destination of his week-long trip was Laos, where this year's ASEAN summit took place. And in light of marking the 35th year of establishing a dialogue relationship, South Korea and ASEAN upgraded their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Now, also in Laos, President Yoon held his first ever in-person talks with the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. There, the 2 leaders voiced the need to continue improving Seoul-Tokyo relations as they have been. For those of you who have just tuned in, we are just still waiting for this year's 44th cabinet meeting to begin here. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol may bring South Korean novelist Kang winning this year's Nobel Prize in Literature just last week. To remind you, she became the first Asian female to be awarded with the prize in literature. But she is the second South Korean to secure a Nobel Prize after former President Kim Dae-jung, who won the Peace Prize back in 2000. Now, President Yoon could tout Kang and also her work and address how far Korean literature has come. Now, it looks like the cabinet meeting is about to begin. We'll come back after he delivers his remarks.
Begin the cabinet meeting. Last week, I paid a state visit to the Philippines and Singapore and attended the ASEAN-related summit held in Vientiane in Laos. The ASEAN summit includes the Korea-ASEAN summit between Korea and the 10 ASEAN countries and the ASEAN Plus 3 summit with Korea, China, and Japan. And on top of this, the East Asia Summit, EAS, which the United States, Russia, and India participate. And I attended all the 3 multilateral meetings. I also had bilateral meetings with many leaders of different countries who visited Laos. Through this visit, I strengthened, together with the ASEAN countries, strategic cooperation with our allies in key economic cooperation in the areas of infrastructure, supply chains, and energy. And this was been solidifying the global pivotal state status of our country. During the state visit to the Philippines, which was held in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between the 2 countries, President Marcos and I established a strategic partnership. We decided to implement the Korea-Philippines FTA as soon as possible and further expand participation of our companies in rapidly growing sectors in the Philippines. In particular, I asked for the cooperation of the Philippines so that our companies in Korea can advance into the large-scale infrastructure projects connecting major islands in the Philippines. In addition, we agreed to promote the Laguna Lake Ring Road and PNG Bridge projects as loans from our EDCF. This has provided an opportunity to further expand the participation of Korean companies in the Philippines and the infrastructure projects in the country. In addition, we signed an MOU on cooperation in the supply chain of core raw materials with the Philippines, laying foundation for combining the Philippines' abundant resources such as nickel, cobalt, and our advanced industrial capabilities. We also signed an MOU on cooperation in the feasibility study for the resumption of construction of the Bataan nuclear power plant. And with this, we will drive the cooperation in nuclear power with the Philippines. Myself and President Marcos, we also decided to expand a Korean company's participation in the Philippines military modernization project. I believe that this will be an expansion in the industry exports, defense industry exports to the Philippines. And then I visited Singapore, which is a key partner country in ASEAN. And during this visit, Korea and Singapore agreed to establish a strategic partnership relationship next year to commemorate its 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. The two countries that have been leading Asia's growth agreed to expand cooperation in various fields such as advanced technology, energy, food safety, startups, and digital utilization, education. In particular, Singapore, as a logistics hub, we decided to strengthen our supply chain alliance. And also Singapore, which is an international natural gas trading hub, we are also going to pursue a stable supply of natural gas by promoting cooperation. Through the LNG cooperation MOU and supply chain partnership agreements that were signed within Singapore, we believe that this will contribute to have an impact on the uncertainty of our external conditions on our economy and securing a stable energy supply. The Singapore lecture hosted by the Singapore Institute of Southeast Asian Studies explained the meaning of international solidarity in the vision of free unification, and I emphasized the realization of a free and open unified Korean peninsula will be a historical turning point that will promote freedom, peace, and prosperity in the world, and that it is a must that we have to be in solidarity with the international community. The Korea-ASEAN summit that was held in Laos, Korea and ASEAN declared the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership, which is the highest level of partnership. We, back in 1989, established the dialogue relations with the ASEAN, and over the past 35 years ever since, our trade with ASEAN has increased 23-fold and investment 80-fold. And human exchanges 37 times. And based on such history of cooperation, Korea and ASEAN have entered into the best cooperative relationship in the areas of peace, prosperity, and coexistence, and we are going to accelerate such cooperation across many fields. And through this ASEAN Plus 3 summit, we were able to create a new turning point for cooperation between ASEAN, Korea, China, and Japan. Held in May, after 4 years and 5 months, the Korea-Japan-China Summit is becoming a catalyst for ASEAN Plus 3 cooperation. The comprehensive strategic partnership between Korea and ASEAN, with the establishment of it, the role of Korea in this cooperative body will be further expanded. The Republic of Korea will strive to strengthen connectivity with ASEAN by contributing to expanding the financial and food safety nets in the ASEAN region and leading cooperation in future industries, including electric vehicles, and actively supporting the development of ASEAN talent. Meanwhile, at the EAS, I emphasized that the security and economic uncertainties facing the international community stem from challenges to norms and rules. Security challenges that run counter to the norm-based international order, such as North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations and threats, they are putting human lives and even the economy at risk. Myself and my government will work more closely with countries such as United States, Japan, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and the Philippines and Malaysia to take the lead in protecting freedom, peace, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. During my visit to Laos, I held bilateral meetings with Japan, Australia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos. With Prime Minister Ishiba of Japan, we agreed to continue the shuttle diplomacy and communicate at all levels to mature the bilateral relations. With Australian Prime Minister, I agreed to cooperate further in the areas of national defense industry, and supply chain. With the Thai Prime Minister, we held our first summit in just 1 month after taking office and discussed ways to strengthen cooperation related to future industries such as EVs and nuclear power. The Vietnamese Prime Minister, with Prime Minister Chinh, we agreed to deepen cooperation in trade, investment, and infrastructure. With Laos President Thong Loon, we agreed to establish a comprehensive partnership next year to mark the 30th anniversary of the re-establishment of our diplomatic ties and strengthen cooperation in climate response and infrastructure. I hope that all ministries will take good care and follow-up measures so that the results of this visit can lead to tangible results that are palpable by the people. Our government, ever since its inauguration, has worked to build a capital market that meets global standards. The private sector-led, market-centered economy policy was the one that we transitioned into, and we solidified the fundamentals of the economy. And the global investors, for them to easily invest in our capital market, we have been promoting institutional improvements to this end. We have made it easier for foreign investors to buy and sell our government bonds and have extended the trading hours for foreign exchange until 2 a.m. With such orchestrated efforts, the decision on our country's inclusion in the World Government Bond Index was made on October 9th. The Global Government Bond Investment Index worth $2.5 trillion. We have been proudly included in the ranks, and this has opened our way into the global capital market. And we believe that this is an evidence that our government's policies has been done and executed in the right direction. It is expected that approximately 75 trillion won of global investment funds will flow in with the inclusion into the World Government Bond Index. Based on stable global government bond demand, interest rates will stabilize and the supply of foreign exchange liquidity will become smoother. Along with such good news, our stock market is also expected to change. The government has been banning short selling and promoting fundamental institutional reform since November of last year, and this was to protect our capital market from illegal market disruption and also protect 14 million individual investors. On September 26, the revised Capital Market Act to improve the short selling system passed the National Assembly and will be promulgated today after the cabinet meeting. When the law goes into effect at the end of March next year, it will be possible to comprehensively inspect illegal short selling through the system. The uneven playing field between institutions and individual investors will be resolved, and also the illegal short selling and unfair trading, the punishment for such activities will be further strengthened. I hope that the relevant organizations will be thoroughly prepared. In addition, the government will further accelerate the corporate value-up policy to vitalize the capital market, and we are going to provide various incentives to shareholder-friendly companies. Through this, we believe that the virtuous cycle in which the companies increase their values and citizens who can invest and enjoy greater profits will create a virtuous cycle. And we believe that the ruling and opposition parties, the bilateral efforts will be there to eliminate market instability factors. This inclusion in the World Government Bond Index, eradicating of illegal short selling, tax system reform, and corporate value up will eliminate the Korea discount, so to say, and elevate the status of Korean capital market. We will do our best to ensure that the government's efforts lead to the vitality of the real market, real economy, so that the people can feel the benefits.
이후 의안 심의는 비공개로 진행되오니 언론인 여러분께서는
That was our live coverage of the 44th Cabinet meeting of the year. We'll bring you more highlights in our upcoming newscast, but in the meantime, let's turn to stories making the headlines at this hour. We start with North Korea's persistent claim of drone incursions by South Korea. The leader, Kim Jong-un, has convened a council meeting where he reportedly ordered military and political directions regarding the drones. Our An Sung-jin starts us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has given a staunch military and political statement in response to the regime's claim of drone incursions by South Korea last week. However, what he exactly stated has not been released. This is according to the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency, which said that Kim convened a Defense and Security Council meeting on Monday to discuss a military action plan. It added that the regime's leader during the meeting also came forward with important military tasks needed in mobilizing war deterrence and self-defense. On the same day, North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong again denounced Seoul. In a statement reported on KCNA, she accused the South Korean military of being the main culprit behind sending unmanned drones into Pyongyang, and added that the U.S. should also be accountable. No evidence was provided to support her claim. An expert from the South Korea's Institute for National Unification analyzed her statement and suggested that her emotional response has a pattern, which is then followed by a shock therapy response. He added that with South Korea maintaining ambiguity, North Korea's trigger and pressure comes from the fact that it has been unable to exactly identify the source of the drones. These heightened tensions come as North Korea claimed on Friday that Seoul sent unmanned aerial vehicles carrying propaganda leaflets to its capital on October 3rd, 9th, and 10th. The South Korean military said it is unable to verify the claim, neither confirming nor denying allegations. And amid the threats from Pyongyang, Russia on Monday said that the drone incursions are a violation of North Korea's sovereignty, and that Seoul's supposed actions destroy the legitimate state and political system of an independent state. Russia's foreign ministry also urged South Korean authorities to take the North's warning seriously to prevent further escalation of tensions. Earlier this week, the South Korean military has detected the North's preparation to blow up roads along the Gyeonggi and Donghae railway lines which connect the two Koreas, a sign of Pyongyang's increasing intentions to cut off land links with the South. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin submitted a bill to the State Duma on Monday to ratify Russia's strategic agreement with North Korea. Now, the bill provides for military assistance in case one of the countries is attacked. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday submitted a bill to the Russian parliament's lower house to ratify the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang, signed back in June. According to Russia's state-run TASS news agency, the ratification of the treaty was listed on the State Duma's electronic database. The Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty was signed by Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on June 19th during Putin's visit to Pyongyang, with the goal of deepening partnership and strategic cooperation in a wide range of areas. Most notably, Article 4 of the treaty includes a mutual defense clause that the two allies will provide military and other assistance to each other if one party is attacked. The treaty was met with international condemnation, including from South Korea, which stressed that such a treaty would pose a strategic threat to regional stability. With North Korea holding its Supreme People's Assembly last week, there have been no reports yet on whether North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also ratified the treaty signed with Putin. 이승재, Arirang News.
So tensions are high yet again here on the peninsula, with North Korea now threatening to blow up roads connected to South Korea. What's behind the regime's hostile behavior? Let's turn to Professor Brian Myers for more. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, North Korea's threats on Monday came just days after the North warned they would cut off all inter-Korean roads and railways. Professor Myers, why such a dramatic development here on the Korean peninsula?
Well, it's apparently because of the drones which the North Koreans accused the South Koreans of having sent into North Korean airspace. When North Korean drones came into South Korean airspace in 2022, that was perceived as a big humiliation to the South Korean military. But North Korea is a military-first state. The North Korean regime derives, I think, the bulk of its legitimation from the perception of its military strength. So South Korean drone incursions into North Korea pose, I think, an even greater threat to the legitimacy of the North Korean state. So it's responding with this very tense and belligerent rhetoric.
And North Korea issued a directive to its artillery units near the border to be fully on standby to shoot. The question is, how likely is it that the North will actually go ahead with such a provocative act?
Well, we had even more tension and even more belligerence in the spring of 2013. And in the end, nothing really happened. So I wouldn't ascribe too much importance to this directive. After all, the two Koreas are still formally at war. So troops along the DMZ are generally on a higher state of alert than border troops in most other parts of the world. Also, North Korea is supplying weapons and maybe even soldiers to Russia's war effort in Ukraine. So I doubt that Kim wants big trouble with South Korea right now. On the other hand, as I say, this is a big embarrassment for the North Korean military. The North Korean people are led to believe that the rest of the world is quaking in fear of their country. So this poses a serious challenge to the regime that it probably won't take lying down. I think we'll see an escalation of some sort, but probably not an outbreak of real hostilities.
Well, what we have to note here is that local experts are actually questioning the origin of these drones that flew over the border, saying they actually belong to North Korea. Professor Myers, what's your take on this?
I'm a bit skeptical that the South Korean military would have sent the drones, because that would have required some sort of approval from the US military, which I doubt that the Americans would have given. I'm inclined to think it was South Korean NGOs, but I'm actually more skeptical of the notion that this is just something that the North Koreans have done themselves to create tension. That reminds me a little bit of the notion that it was the Russians who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, when in fact it turned out to be NATO after all. I think the drones probably did come from South Korea, but what I find strange is that North Korea decided to make such a big public fuss about this. If this was such a big embarrassment, and I think it was, you have to wonder why North Korea wants to draw so much attention to what is really a security failure on the Kim regime's part.
And, before these drones came, there were trash carrying balloons from the North, in a retaliatory move against the same move staged by North Korean defectors here in South Korea. Does that mean there is a chance of the North flying drones to South Korea as well? What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is an option. We've had a few North Korean drone incursions already, as I said,
right.
And that did have a good political effect from the North Koreans' perspective. So I think this is an option that Kim Jong-un might resort to. If it comes to drone wars, battles between drones going back and forth, I think the North is more likely to win, because it's easier for North Korea to shoot down drones on the relatively long flight to Pyongyang, much of which is quite sparsely populated, than it will be for South Korea to shoot down drones over Seoul. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I think it would be a kind of a logical form of escalation from the North's perspective.
Professor Myers, before I let you go, what's also notable is that South Korea's military first denied flying the balloons, but later added that the military can't really confirm it happened. What is it that Seoul is trying to do? Trying to confuse Pyongyang?
Well, militaries like to preserve strategic ambiguity. It's always better to keep your adversary guessing, after all. In this particular case, I think either a formal denial or a formal confirmation would have been problematic. Denial would have meant that South Korean NGOs sent the drones, and that would have put the government here under pressure to stop that kind of activity. As for formal confirmation, that might well escalate the situation further. So regardless of who actually sent the drones, I think ambiguity was probably the wisest course of action here.
Alrighty, Professor Myers, thank you so much for your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
As the New York Stock Exchange entered the third quarter corporate earnings announcement season, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above the 43,000 mark for the first time on Monday. The Dow Jones rose 201.36 points, or 0.47% from the previous trading session, to close at 65,000.22. The S&P 500 closed at an all-time high also of 5,859.85, up nearly 45 points from the previous trading session. Wall Street is seeing positive momentum with the expectation that the U.S. economy is maintaining a solid growth trend, with 30 companies listed in the S&P 500 exceeding analysts' third quarter earnings expectation by an average of 5%. Korea's experts of information and communication technology continued a positive momentum in September, raking in over $22 billion. Now, overseas chip sales were behind yet another on-year increase. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun has more.
Strong semiconductor exports due to the AI boom once again led South Korea's tech shipments overseas. Data from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy showed that ICT exports in September rose by 24% compared to the same month the year before, adding up to $22.36 billion. This is the second highest amount for a month's worth of ICT exports on record and marks the 11th consecutive month that the country's tech exports recorded a year-on-year increase. The ministry attributed this to a rise in demand for chips in the artificial intelligence sector. The total value of semiconductor exports last month recorded an all-time high, coming in at more than $13.6 billion, once again recording growth in the double digits. This is showcased by exports of memory chips, including high-bandwidth memory semiconductors, which show significant growth of more than 60% year-on-year. As for other tech exports, computers and computer accessories surged by more than double year-on-year, while mobile phone shipments climbed by more than 25% on the back of the release of the foldable Galaxy Z series from Samsung Electronics in July, which continued its popularity into September. However, exports of displays and telecommunication equipment saw a decline. By country, tech exports to China, South Korea's main destination for ICT shipments accounting for more than 41% of the total, continue to grow for the 11th month in a row. Shipments to the United States also rose by nearly 40% year-on-year, particularly for computer storage devices such as SSDs, which jumped by more than 250%. Meanwhile, ICT imports came to around $12.5 billion, leaving the ICT trade balance in the black once more. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences has been awarded to economists Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson and James Robinson for studies of how institutions are formed and affect a country's prosperity. The announcement was made on Monday in Stockholm. The chair of the Economics Prize Committee said that thanks to the economists' groundbreaking research, we now have a much deeper understanding of why countries fail or succeed. This marks the end of the Nobel Prizes awarded this year. J-Hope will shortly become the second of the 7 BTS members to complete his 18-month mandatory military service. His agency Big Hit Music announced on Monday that J-Hope will be discharged from the army on Thursday, October 17th. It added that there will be no special events that day, asking fans to refrain from visiting the site for safety reasons. Now, Jin was the first member to reunite with the band's fandom army in June. Fans will have to wait until at least June 2025 to see all members discharged and BTS back together again. The transition to clean energy is taking place in small but tangible steps at a camping program on Jeju Island. How about a barbecue using renewable energy? And you can also charge your phone just by using wind power. Our Park Gon-woo has this story.
A pleasant eco-friendly camping adventure utilizing renewable energy. This is available on South Korea's largest island, Jeju, by using its plentiful natural resources, including wind power. As part of the net zero target of 2035, Jeju held its first RE100 camping event last week at the Dongbok Bukchon wind farm, sourcing renewable electricity for cooking and lighting the site, among others. With renewable energy generated from the wind power at the site, you can charge your own phone just like me. Now I'm ready for more eco-friendly experiences. By riding this electric bicycle charged with renewable energy, you can enjoy the beautiful nature of Jeju while breathing in the fresh air. A total of 100 campers signed up on a first-come, first-served basis enjoyed themselves during the one-night stay.
I've always been interested in recycling, so participating in this was meaningful. I rode an electric bike for the first time and it was fun. I'm looking forward to the barbecue, especially as you can't miss out on eating when camping.
Pork barbecued using electricity generated from wind power, along with farm produce from Jeju including carrots, was served to the campers for dinner. And as the camping was held at a site filled with abundant natural scenery, the campers were able to engage with nature as well. While trekking Gotjawar Forest, a kind of volcanic ecosystem in Jeju, campers had a chance to listen carefully to the sounds of nature with headsets and a small recorder.
I felt really comfortable as I was absorbed in the sounds of nature. It was fun to experience these activities with campers interested in environmental issues. I would like to keep coming here.
An official from the Jeju Tourism Organization is confident that the experience will continue to be popular.
Considering the environment and energy transition is a global trend, various eco-friendly events and content are being made. That's why our renewable energy camping is more unique.
He also said Jeju will be planning many more of these eco-friendly camping programs to bring more tourists to the region down the road. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News, Jeju.
Good morning, I'm Kim Ji-young, and this is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. US space agency NASA launched its Europa Clipper spacecraft on Monday from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on a long mission to Jupiter, where it will investigate the planet's moon, Europa, for signs of life. The Europa Clipper launched at 12:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time from Florida, aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket to begin its 2.9 billion kilometer journey. The largest spacecraft NASA has ever built for a mission to an alien planet, the Europa Clipper is bound for Jupiter's fourth largest moon, where NASA's Galileo mission in the 90s found strong signs of an enormous subsurface ocean that may provide adequate conditions to support life. According to NASA, evidence suggests that a salty ocean with more water than all of Earth's oceans combined lies under Europa's surface layer of ice. The Europa Clipper is set to reach Jupiter's orbit in April 2030 and will fly past Europa 49 times. The mission, if successful, would determine the thickness of Europa's icy shell and its relation to the ocean below, as well as the composition and characteristics of its geology. India and Canada have expelled their top diplomatic envoys after authorities accuse agents of the Indian government of involvement in, quote, homicides, extortion and violent acts on Canadian soil. Canadian police on Monday said that Indian diplomats and consular officials were leveraging their position to engage in clandestine activities, including acts of violence against Sikh separatists in Canada, before the Canadian Foreign Ministry announced the expulsion of 6 Indian diplomats, including the High Commissioner. Later the same day, India's Foreign Ministry released a statement accusing Canada of being influenced by Sikh separatists and announced 6 Canadian diplomats, including the acting High Commissioner, had been asked to leave India by October 19th. The row stems from the murder of Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar last year outside a Sikh temple in British Columbia. The World Health Organization said it received an additional $700 million in pledges for its 2025-2028 budget at the World Health Summit 2024 in Berlin on Monday, bringing the total pledges received to $1 billion. In addition to the $700 million, $300 million have already been pledged by the European and African unions. Germany, one of WHO's biggest donors, said it would provide around $400 million for the Geneva-based organization's next budget. Now, Chancellor Olaf Scholz encouraged other countries to pledge, saying, "Every contribution counts, no matter how small." The Nepali teenage climber, who set the world record as the youngest person to summit the world's 14 highest peaks, has returned home a hero, receiving a warm welcome in the streets of Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. 18-year-old Nimarinji Sherpa reached the 8,027-meter peak of Tibet's Shishapangma mountain last Wednesday to complete the final climb of the 14 mountains with summits that surpass 8,000 meters. The summits conquered by Nima include the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest, and K2, seen as one of the most dangerous peaks. Now, Nima's exceptional achievement was confirmed by the Nepal Mountaineering Association, officially breaking the record of the previous youngest person, Mingma Gyabu David Sherpa, who achieved the feat at age 30, 2019.
Clouds are bringing rain in some places. Rain clouds are dropping light showers to most regions, but heavier rainfall to parts of Gyeongsang-Namdo province, dropping 20 millimeters an hour this morning. Jeju and the south coast could see up to 20 millimeters. The rest of the country will see spotty showers of less than 5 millimeters through the afternoon, but the skies remain cloudy for most of the day. And we are having morning temperatures that are much higher than norms this week so far, with wet clouds trapping the warmth overnight. Nearly 7 degrees higher than average for the capital. Then highs will also go up 1 to 4 degrees higher than Monday in most parts of Korea. Now, for a closer look, Seoul tops out at 23 degrees Celsius. Gwangju and Daegu will make it to 24 degrees Celsius. Chuncheon will have a rain-free day with some sunshine. Then rain on Friday will bring a chill to the country this weekend. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time.